Kasai Rex is a theropod dinosaur from the Congo. Descriptions vary between a tyrannosaur and an extremely large monitor lizard, but the general consensus is that it is in fact a dinosaur. It is said to have been 13 meters in length, which no lizard ever was, that we know of. The biggest lizard was Megalania, a 6-meter long relative of the Komodo dragon that lived in Australia during the Pleistocene. Also, there is this image, a proven fake, of a supposed Kasai Rex, which is just a monitor lizard taken from a National Geographic magazine, in a time where Photoshop didn't yet exist. Now, with all this giant lizard talk out of the way, we have to try and see the Kasai Rex as a theropod. And which theropod could it be? There were no tyrannosaurs in Africa. So, as cool as it would have sounded, it must not be a T-Rex. We will get to that later. The first recorded sighting happened in 1932 and is as follows. The experienced Swedish hunter Ronald Johnson wanted to hunt a huge elephant, so he and his servant left their camp in Cape Town. They crossed the swamp until finally reaching the savannah, in the Kasai Valley, which seemed desolate, as there were no animals anywhere. That was until the servant yelled in excitement when he saw 2 elephants, so Johnson got his shotgun ready, but something was wrong with them. There were only 2, instead of an entire herd. About 44 meters away, there was something in the underbrush stalking the elephants, and it suddenly, a strange creature, jumped. The servant dropped into the undergrowth, while Johnson, paralyzed, changed aim and decided to shoot this strange creature. He shot the creature 3 times, and only one shot hit it, hitting the back. The creature backed away and left. Johnson got his servant up from the ground and decided to go back to his camp in Cape Town. But first, they had to cross the swamp. When they were halfway across the swamp, they heard a splash and thought of crocodiles. Johnson looked everywhere until they saw, 20 meters away, the same creature that they saw in the savannah, tearing the hump of a rhinoceros, and with one bite tore one of the rhinoceros' legs off. Johnson's servant ran terrified, while John stayed there. He immediately thought of shooting the creature, but remembered terrified that the servant had taken his shotgun, but he still had his camera, so he took a photo of the creature, which upon hearing the click, sank quickly into the lake, while the rhinoceros' body floated in a pool of blood. Upon returning to camp, John walked shivering and shaking, collapsed, and the man in there picked him up. It was reddish in color, with blackish colored stripes, he said in his interview with the newspaper Rhodesia Herald. It had a long snout and numerous teeth. He decided that the creature was a Tyrannosaurus, and also said the legs were thick. It reminded me of a lion, but built for speed. Now, this must be one of the most incredible cryptid sightings, if not the most incredible itself. By being so detailed and realistic, you can see why it captured the attention of so many people across the globe, and why the Kasai Rex is still talked about until today. Following the thought of which theropod it may be, we have to keep in mind the large African theropods from the end of the Cretaceous. A carcharodontosaur may seem the obvious answer. These theropods were as big or bigger than the Tyrant-King itself, and some species did in fact roam Africa during the Cretaceous, even terrorizing the likes of Spinosaurus, which was the largest terrestrial predator the world has ever seen, at least as far as we know. But the carcharodontosaurs died out before the end of the Cretaceous, so realistically, even if there were to be a small group of dinosaurs to survive the extinction, they would not be among them, because they were already extinct. The obvious contender for the role of the Kasai Rex ultimately came to be an Abelisaur, and a giant one at that. Abelisaurs were the top predators in Africa, South America, and some parts of Asia. At the same time, T-Rex was ruling North America. And they were really diverse. The most famous of them all has to be the Carnotaurus, with the long horns on the top of its head, the large size, and weirdly small arms. Spoiler, all Abelisaurs had weirdly small arms, which were probably only used for display. Even so, no Abelisaur close to 13 meters in length has been found, although some fragments and footprints found suggest there could have existed an Abelisaur species bigger than Pycnonemosaurus or Carnotaurus, possibly reaching sizes more along the lines of T-Rex and Carcharodontosaurus. It made a lot of sense for our comic book series to incorporate an Abelisaur as the Kasai Rex, even if it started out as a Carcharodontosaurid in the first few sketches. We owe much of that to the speculative evolution forums, which describe in incredible detail what Abelisaurs could have evolved to look like today, in a world devoid of humans, if the extinction wasn't to occur. So we ended up with this 13-meter long, giant aggressive Abelisaur that tears everything and everyone in its path. The pure muscle and power of this animal would give T-Rex itself a very hard time. And now, the jungles of Congo will never be the same again. Even other large predators, such as the Nguma monene, have to learn to coexist with such an incredibly powerful animal. Even the Mokelembembe has to be weary of the Kasai Rex. Ultimately, this was not a very hard cryptid to bring to life in our series because of the very detailed descriptions. We just ended up adding some proto-feathers and other details to make it look as accurate as possible. And yes, I know that if an Abelisaur were to evolve 66 million years until today, it would probably lose its small arms, but we went with a display approach and even added some feathers on it to make them pop a bit more. The small horns and blackish, thick scales on its snout were conceptualized mostly for defense against each other, as Abelisaurs are known to have been cannibalistic, if given the chance. These are more prominent on our male Kasai Rex, which didn't yet made an appearance on our published books, but surely will. Kasai Rex makes appearances in both Congo, Through the Path of Darkness, and Amelia, A Congo Story. But I won't tell you more, I don't want to spoil anything. I just want to ask you one simple question. Who would win in a fight between the Spinosaur Nguma monene and the Kasai Rex? Leave your suggestions down below, as they're really important for us to keep telling this story in a concise way. Before I end this video, I just want to thank you all for your support. You have been really receptive of the scripted videos, and this being the last one, for now, we really can't thank you enough. So, thank you for watching, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe and activate the bell icon, and until next time!